Everybody, this is John for Pioneer Nexus MTG, a brand new Magic channel devoted strictly to the Pioneer format. And to that end, we're going to get into one of the simpler and cheaper decks to build and learn to play. That is Orzhov or Black-White Auras. If you happen to like Pioneer content, please consider subscribing to the channel, as we aim to be the most informative Pioneer MTG channel on YouTube. So before you is probably the cheapest / easiest to play tier deck in Pioneer currently. This is as of the end of March 2021. This is a format that's gone through a number of changes, had a combo winner and many other things. I've covered some of that on my main YouTube channel, but this one is now devoted strictly to Pioneer. And it's been a while since I played the format, so we're going to be getting into the format with one of the easiest decks to learn. So one of the decks, cards, whatever, that may be familiar to certain people in the modern format or eternal formats is a deck known as Hexproof Auras, which usually has a hexproof mechanic creature that you put a bunch of creature enchantments on, beat down, and win, since your opponent can't interact with your creature in a lot of different circumstances. This deck takes that very similar strategy, and it's also very similar to Orzhov Auras in the historic format. It uses things like Shram, Senior Edificer, to gain a little bit of card advantage, but the main thing with this deck is to take a card like Alced's Life Bounty with Lifelink, or Stonecoil Serpent, or Apostle of Purifying Light. Basically whatever creature your opponent has the most trouble dealing with, and trying to cram a bunch of powerful enchantments on them. The most powerful being Ethereal Armor, which enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control, and all that glitters. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. Basically, you're trying to make a big, difficult to deal with dude and kill your opponent. You also have things like Hateful Eidolon to recoup card loss whenever your enchanted creature dies, or Shram as you cast the spells. One of the things with creature enchantments is they're notoriously fickle for getting 3 or 4 for 1 if your opponent happens to kill the creature they're attached to. Makes it very difficult to suit up a creature in a lot of formats, but this deck is very capable of doing that, once again because of those cards, but also because of things like where's the card? Karametra's Blessing, which is basically kind of gives your creature hexproof and indestructible if it happens to be enchanted, or it is an enchantment creature. Hateful Eidolon's enchantment creature, Alced's an enchantment creature, and most of your other stuff is going to be enchanted at some point. Other enchantments you have access to, Cartouche of Solidarity, gives your creature +1/+1, and First Strike also creates a 1/1 warrior token. So very good value for 1 mana. Ethereal Armor we've already covered. Griffspoon gives you a little bit of invasion, as well as the ability to bring it back in the mid to late game. This gives you flying, which can be important if your opponent's able to clog up the board somehow. Sentinel's Eyes gives you +1/+1 in vigilance. You also has the escape mechanic. So basically you have a lot of ways of recurring a lot of your cards in this deck, which is nice whenever you're risking getting 2 or 3 for 1. Stonecoil Serpent, quite interesting, primarily against the Nib Mizzet deck that has a lot of removal that is multicolored and a lot of creatures that are multicolored. Apostle of Purifying Light here in the main deck, along with the 2 in the sideboard, very good as the premier removal in the format. Outside of a deck like Burn, is primarily black, Fatal Push, Bloodchief's Thirst, etc. So that is what your deck's trying to do, as well as a pile of black-white duels and 4 planes to kind of round things out. Only playing 20 lands as you see, a very low curve deck. Nothing like Chalice of the Void to really punish you for this kind of stuff in this format. So, the lower into the ground you are, the better off you are with a deck like this. We've already covered Apostle of Purifying Light. One of the nice things about playing this is you also can be Luris of the Dream Den deck, which is nice, trying to recur your stuff from the graveyard in the mid to late game against removal heavy decks. 4 copies of Deadweight for the small creature decks that once again you can recur with Luris. 4 copies of Thoughtseize, any type of combo or control deck. This allows you to poke a hole in what they're doing. 2 copies of Legion's End, which is quite nice against any type of deck that's playing a bunch of creatures on the lower end as well. And then Aphemia, the end of your end step, you may exile an enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie. Basically another enchantment creature that allows you to get more value out of your graveyard, giving you more bodies to try to overwhelm your opponent. So that said, I'm not going to be doing a league the first time around here. I'm going to be jumping into Tournaments Practice Room on MTGO. So the quality of the opponents might be a little bit not what we'll see in the actual league play later on. But, I want to get a feel for the format again and see what kind of decks are out there. So let's get into some matches, shall we? Back here, the first match. We're on the play, which is obviously nice. Luris. A little bit of an awkward hand. I think with the Shram we keep it, but a little bit of a risky hand, obviously. Probably just leave on Shram on 2. Opponent's going to know right away what we're playing, unfortunately, but alright. Good chance our creature dies. So do I just play Hateful Eidolon first? Might bait out some type of burn spell if they're on burn. This will allow us to draw a card. See if our opponent decides to kill. Which one they decide to kill, I should say. Okay. Fair enough. Looks like we are up against burn. It's going to play very large Stone Coil Serpent. No attacks with our Shram. Sure. Sure. Unfortunately, we have to take this. Back the ability to block here. It's an interesting one. Decent chance we're dead here, but yep. And that's game. So on to sideboarding against mono red. Dead weights seem reasonable. Legion N seems reasonable. Also purifying light, kind of whatever in this matchup. Guess we'll go with the Griff Spoons out. The thing with burn in this format, as I am very familiar with burn obviously in Modern, is that the deck is much more creature based than it is in Modern. Usually runs between 16 to 20 creatures. Our opponent's playing a little bit of a weird version with Flame of Keld, but this hand is awkward. Don't think we can keep this hand, unfortunately. This hand is also very awkward. Somehow hope our Hateful Eidolon doesn't die on one. Oh. Okay. Hopefully our life linking can race. We're gonna get double skewered. Nope, light up the stage. Alright. That's the kind of game we gotta win, you know? Lifelink is huge on our 1-drops. We can, get them to the point where they can't be killed by our opponent's stuff. Just don't think this hand's good enough. Make sure him just dies and then question is, what are we putting back here? Yeah, I think it's SRAM for now. Let me just pass. Sure. Sure. Discard their hand. So, we did. Okay. Will that be enough to get us out of this? Okay. And that should be the game. Nice. That was an awesome first match to get a feel for the format.